and welcome to another episode of Geekoutdoors.com. As I was about to make my normal weekly mobile gamer videos, I just noticed that this is going to be episode 200. And so as a special video episode in in celebration of this 200th episode, I'm going to go ahead and do 3 different mobile game reviews. If you aren't familiar with my mobile gamer series, it's basically where I review old retro games that I really enjoy. Most of it's arcade games. So enjoy this special 200 video episode, and thanks for watching. Racing games are basically common nowadays, but back then there were very few racing games that really set the standard and basically started this whole craze other than Outrun. I absolutely love this game. As with many Yu Suzuki arcade games, I thought this one really was revolutionary in so many ways. And whenever this game came out, I mean, your first thought was, whenever you saw this in a driving cockpit, you saw the graphics. They were amazing. And then you saw this beautiful Ferrari along with your beautiful girlfriend, and this was just a really exhilarating game. So let's go ahead and start this. This really made me want to play racing games even more. And it was cool that they allowed you to select different type of music as well. So as you can see here, it's like basically every guy's dream, to drive a Ferrari in a beautiful place along with a beautiful girl. And I'm not saying that girls can't do this neither, but this was really geared towards young guys at the time. And it's just, even today, I'm still marvel at these graphics, And just remember, this wasn't really real 3D. This is done by 2D bitmaps. And the whole point of this racing game, and how Yu Suzuki and his team made it, was you weren't really battling other people. You were battling the time, which made this game extremely challenging. I never really got far in the arcades or even in the home versions without cheating because it was so hard. But one of the things that I appreciate now more than ever is the technical superiority of this racing game. Just look at the absolutely amazing graphics. I mean, for them to come up with this and for it to be so smooth was amazing. I keep going back to that. And what I enjoyed about this game was the fact that it was just fun. I mean, you just felt like you just want to keep driving, and just soak up all the scenery. And then when you crash, obviously it's a pretty horrible affair, especially when you smash into other cars. Now the thing with this game was it really wasn't truly a competitive racing game. It was more like I guess what you say, more of super duper arcadey. So there wasn't really anything realistic out of it. And as you saw, I didn't get very far. And what I like about this game as well is another thing that they added was multiple branching paths. And so it wasn't just one way for you to do something, in terms of like different endings. And so that would also encourage you to play this game many times and just drop a whole bunch of quarters. Now there was a sequel to this. There was Outrunners, and there were other Outrun games as well on next-gen systems. But for some reason, I really don't remember those in terms of it being memorable. I always go back to this original Outrun, an instant classic. Definitely the racing game that really got me into racing games to begin with. Back in the 80s and all the way up to the 90s and early 2000s, shooters were just everywhere. And one of the most classic and memorable shooters was this one right here, Raiden. Now this game, I really couldn't tell why it was so popular when I first saw it at the arcades. But then once I started playing it, I just was immediately hooked. And what I liked about Raiden, as with most shooters back then, was it's very simple. Usually you have one button that shoots, and then you have another button that throws your bomb. But what's unique, or I wouldn't say unique, but what was fun about this game was the different type of power-ups and how whenever you do power up, it really does change the game a little bit, because most of the times, shooters back then, around the time that Raiden came out, they were mostly the same. There really wasn't anything that really set them apart. With some few games exceptions like Gradius and stuff, I remember that one. But for some reason, Raiden was just different, It was overhead, and I really like the fact that whenever you do play this, there's like a sense of I would say danger, and in most shooter games, it was just mindless. But this one, I just wanted to keep playing, and I really can't explain why. And whenever this came out on the PlayStation, they actually came out with a Raiden collection where they had Raiden 1 and Raiden 2. And then later on, there were many other versions of Raidens. There was Raiden DX, and there was also a sequel, which I might review later. I think it was called Ray Tracers. That was pretty awesome. And as you could see, there's just so many things on the screen. But like I said, it's really fun. You get your homing missiles, and the controls on this were just really spot on. And I definitely enjoyed the graphics as well. And you got to remember, this came out in the 1990s. And you know, later on there were many other great shooters as well. But Raiden, it was just one of those where I will never forget. And looking back at it now, I still think it's aged pretty well in terms of shooters. Obviously, it's not as advanced as it once was, but Raiden was definitely one of those where I definitely remember playing in the arcades and playing in many iterations on the home consoles. So yeah, one of my favorite shooters of all time, definitely Raiden. So whenever Street Fighter 2 came out and it became this super mega legend that it is today, there were so many Street Fighter 2 clones until I saw this game. As anybody who knows or familiar with Samurai Showdown, or in Japan it was called Samurai Spirits, this was to me the game that defined not only the arcade fighting game with weapons, but also established the Neo Geo as an arcade powerhouse. So when I first saw this game at the arcades, I really thought, oh wow, another Street Fighter clone. So I wasn't really curious to play it. You know, I wasn't that excited because I played so many clones. But then when I started playing this and I saw the amazing graphics, especially the huge sprites, and Earthquake is probably the largest fighting sprite that I've seen up to this point, I was immediately blown away. And the play mechanics with the actual weapons, that was something that was so unique and done so well here. And I can't talk enough about how amazing these graphics were. You got to think about at the time when this game came out in the 90s. I mean, most of the fighting games that were there at the time, they all tried to copy Street Fighter 2. And although most of them, they weren't that great and the graphics weren't even close to what Street Fighter 2 was able to achieve. However, with Samurai Showdown, I thought the graphics were even better than Street Fighter 2. And the fact that they had weapons, that was even better. And all of them have like super special moves whenever their meter gets full at the bottom. And I just really was blown away by this game. And another thing that I really loved about this game was the fact that the creators of the game spent so much time on the character design and development. So each one had their own unique style, and you would actually remember them. You know, it's actually just like Street Fighter 2, where you're playing this game and you can actually feel like you are the character in this game. And this game was pretty difficult. I mean, especially difficult if you're not playing with an actual joystick, as I am right here. But it made you want to keep playing over and over. And obviously there were many sequels to Samurai Showdown, okay? And I really enjoyed pretty much all of them. But my favorite has to be the first one, because it gave me so many memories in terms of playing fighting games, and it was so different. And it also had blood, you know, but not blood like the Mortal Kombat, where it was just for the sake of having blood. You know, it wasn't really anything unique anymore by this point, but it just made sense to the game. And unfortunately, I can't do the special move because I don't have a controller. But this game, Samurai Showdown, and all the other games that came after it, it truly was revolutionary. And if there was any Street Fighter 2 clone that came out because of it, I would definitely say I'm glad Street Fighter 2 had clones. And this was the best one so far that I can remember when I was young. And I'm going to keep playing Samurai Showdown because it was that much fun. Oh, got me.
Thanks for checking out this episode. And as always, if you like these videos, be sure to click on the subscribe button. And for full written content, audio content, and additional geek stuff, head over to geekoutdoors.com, and I'll see you outdoors on the very next episode.